Like half back from the corner. Think of it like a battery. Yeah. Okay, no. Yeah.
Again, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. As you come on, please take a moment to share your thoughts on the survey that's posted. We're going to get started in about 45 seconds.
Is people actually talking?
We will be talking real soon. In the meantime,
Okay, there we go.
and we're going to get started shortly.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Can you please tell me what a survey is?
There's at the top, it should say something about a survey. You can click on that and it should pop up. All right, about 10 more seconds. Just so you know, we're going to take a post survey at the end of our presentation today, asking a very similar question as well. So if you can go ahead, I'm going to close this in about 7 seconds so that we can get started. All right. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I am Dr. Curtis Lewis, the Chief of Teaching and Learning for UPrep Schools. I will be your moderator for today. I would like to welcome you all this evening. This is our third and final town hall for the week. Today, our focus is to share, and I'm going to stress, our draft plan for reopening our schools. We will appreciate your feedback. If there are any questions that you have, please put them in the chat. At the end of our presentations, we will then open it up to answer those questions that are in the chat. Next slide, please. So real quick, as to set some community norms, we want to make sure we assume positive intent as we're listening. We value all voices, which is why we have you here. Your thoughts, your concerns are important to us. And we're going to take folks' thoughts and thinking in consideration. Please keep your computer on mute. Place all questions, as I just mentioned, in the chat. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. So as we get started, I wanted to just share with you guys our UPrep core values and vision. Next slide, please. So our mission and vision, we prepare students for life. And our UPrep vision reads as follows: University Prep Schools provides a culturally responsive educational experience for our scholars that builds academic competence, habits of work, and scholarship, and self-actualization, empowering them to successfully accomplish their post-secondary plans, as well as socially and civically engaged as change agents for themselves and their community. Next slide, please. Our core values, real quick: we care about people, we think big and do. Our actions have a purpose. We work well by ourselves and in teams, and learning is exciting. Next slide. So our agenda for today, we went over I opened up, we went over community norms. We're gonna get a welcome and some information from our CEO, Ms. Danielle Jackson. Then we're gonna have a presentation by Geneva Sharif, who's our Senior Director of K-12 Mathematics. And then you will have a presentation by Sarah Laird, who is our Executive Director of Finance. And she's gonna talk about health and safety. And then we're gonna open it up for questions and answers, and we're gonna close. And with the closing, we're gonna have that closing survey. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to our Chief Executive Officer, Danielle Jackson.
Good evening, everybody. As Dr. Lewis just said, this is our third and final parent town hall, and I am excited to be here with you today. It was really important to all of us to engage our parents as key stakeholders throughout this entire process to ensure that when we finalized our reopening plan, it will provide the best possible options for our students. Next slide. So again, the key stakeholders that we wanted to make sure voices were heard were school leaders, teachers, parents, board members, community members, as well as network leaders. We assembled the task force back in early May, and we sought out to answer the following 4 questions. With regard to health and safety, we wanted to make sure that we safeguard the health of our crew, students, and our families. For re-enrollment, we understood that through the course of March and June, from March to June, we lost contact with some of our families. There was a lot going on. This is a pandemic is a really serious thing. And so we were thinking about how do we make sure we engage our families and re-engage our families for the start of the new school year. The next question we were thinking deeply about is how do we accelerate learning? We know that we were not able to teach all of the standards that all of our students needed to be exposed to last school year. So as we look ahead, we're puzzling through how do we introduce the next grade standards while still addressing the standards that students did not get a chance to learn. Last but not least, we wanted to be prepared no matter what the virus was doing to be responsive. So if the virus were to tick back up and we went back into a stay-at-home order, are we prepared to have a seamless transition into a virtual learning environment? Of course, as we started this process, we gave out an initial parent survey. For the first 3 weeks of the task force, there was no planning. It was just research. We wanted to understand, as you all know, there's information overload. Every day you turn on the TV or you open up the newspaper, you're hearing something new or something different. So we sought out to do some research. And while we were doing that research, we sent a survey out to our parents. We had over 1,600 responses across all 10 campuses. And I know a question was asked in one of the town hall meetings, how many families do we have? We have 4,700 students. I know we have fewer families because we have multiple students within a family. So that was a pretty good response rate. It was actually an excellent response rate. And what came out in that data were these first 3 points. Number one, it was important to parents to think about smaller class sizes. We heard you loud and clear. You want to make sure that we can social distance if we find ourselves back in an in-person setting. The second point that came out of that survey late at the end of the school year was the quality of learning in the virtual space. There was concern during the shutdown about the quality of the virtual space, and there was also concern about, as we move forward, the quality of the virtual learning space. Lastly, social emotional wellness. This is a human experience happening to all of us around the world, and there's a great deal of concern about how we're responding and supporting social emotional wellness, not just for our students, but also for our teachers. And then lastly, we wanted to peek in on how it was going at home with the devices. And so we asked a question about ease of use when accessing resources online. And what we found out in that data was that half of our parents felt easy peasy, like we got this. And the other 50% was somewhere around, I kind of know my way around, but I need a little bit of help, all the way to please help me. So we've taken all of that initial information into consideration. Next slide. So I want to stress, as Dr. Lewis did at the top of this, we are being guided by the state. So the governor puts us in different phases based upon how the virus is doing. And we actually took that into consideration before we found out about the reopening plan. But it's important to remember, the phase determines what schools can and cannot do. Once again, the state phases determines what schools can or cannot do. What the governor required of all schools is that we submitted 3 plans. The first plan was for the first 3 phases you see on your screen. That is when a stay-at-home order is in effect and everybody is virtual. Then she asked us to submit a second plan. That's phase 4. In the second plan, you can allow for in-person and virtual learning. And then last but not least, we were required to do a third plan for phase 5, because phase 6 means the pandemic is over. So phase 5 is a plan that allows in-person learning for all. Within that, we were required to address certain health and safety standards. You will see in that plan that there are required elements that we had to have in our plan, and there are strongly recommended elements that we have in our plan. And so in some cases, we've exceeded the required expectations. Next slide. So what we're going to share with you today are our 3 plans. What you'll notice in this slide is that phase 1 through 3. It is a stay-at-home. We're in a stay-at-home posture. It is 100% virtual. Everyone, all teachers, all students, all families at home. When we move into phase 4, you're going to learn how we're going to address both in-person and virtual learning. And then finally, the third plan is for phase 5. You'll notice that even though we're back to in-person for phase 5, you still see the check mark for virtual instruction. What that means is that we've learned some valuable lessons about the power of technology, and we don't want to lose sight of that just because we're back to normal, if there will be such a thing when the pandemic subsides. With that, I want to turn it over to Geneva Sharif, who's going to walk you through the overview of those 3 plans.
All right, thank you, Sonia. So what you'll see here is the academic snapshot for K-12 education. As Danielle mentioned, phases 1 through 3 will be stay-at-home order, will be 100% virtual. Phase 4 will be blended learning, meaning students will come to school 50% of the time between Monday through Thursday, and then they will be virtual the other 50% of the time, where Friday will be hosted as student conferences and things of that sort. Phase 5, when we're in containing, is in-person, traditional education, just like when we're regularly in school. What I'll do now is do a breakdown of phase 1 through 3 and the teaching and learning phase description, and then I'll do it for phase 4 and do it for phase 5. So specifically for phases 1 through 3, when we're at the stay-at-home, during the stay-at-home order, we'll engage in virtual instruction, which is synchronous, meaning it will be live with a certified teacher in the respective subject matter. If they're K-5, they'll have the same teacher. 6 through 12, they'll have their content-based teacher, so they'll go to their math class, science class, social studies, English language arts class. As you see below, it's bolded, and I also want to recognize that we are working hard to consider what is best for our teachers and our students, as well as our parents. Right now, and we're open to adjusting as we're getting feedback from all stakeholders, but as of right now, K-5 students will participate in learning Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 3 p.m. Via Swivel, and I'll give a description of what the Swivel platform is and what it does in just a second. Our 612 students will participate in learning from 9 a.m. to 3:30. Now, we know that this is a long time, and we also know that it's really hard for students to sit in front of the computer. So we're stepping back and we're looking at the research to determine like what will be best. But I want to just give some information on like why we decided on this time and what we're including. The reality is last year before COVID, we have students that had unfinished learning. So we're working hard to get students on grade level to the best of our ability. Then COVID happened, and then we got some data from NWEA that provided a study which told us that students are going to retain less than 70%. They'll lose 70% of math instruction, and then for ELA, they'll lose approximately 50%. So we have to try to make up content before COVID, and then have to make up March to June to make sure that our kids are on track to be successful. Now, we also know that being in front of the TV or the computer screen that long is going to be very difficult. So we're committing to adjusting to making sure that it works best for our students, because we know it's a long time, but we're trying to balance to make sure we give our kids exactly what they need to be successful academically. What that means for health and safety, Sarah will go over in just a second after I'm done with my portion of the presentation. What Friday will look like, again, will be the subject-based student conferencing and small group support. This is also the opportunity where we'll be working with the special education team to make sure that our students get everything that they need in regards to their IEP and 504 plans. Phase 4, this is where we're going to focus a good amount of time. This is the Safer at Home plan, where it's a mixture of online and remote learning and in person. So students will report to school 2 full days out of the week. That may be Monday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, Friday, or that may be a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, Friday. We're still fleshing out the logistics on that, but 50% of the students will engage in coursework in the physical space, while the other students are engaging remotely. What's important to know about the remote, that it's all live. So students will be at home, but they'll be able to raise their hand, they'll be able to call for their teacher, they'll be able to answer a question live in real time. There's no recorded lessons, everything will be live. Teachers will report to the building on remote learning days, but students will not report every single day. Learning specialists, who are special education teachers, will also hold small group sessions throughout the day, depending on the requirements and expectations of the student's IEP. I'll also go through a day in the life of what blended learning looks like, because it's kind of hard to visualize what that looks like, in just a second, after I go through phase 5. Phase 5 is in person. That is traditional schooling, where students will come to school every day, and that will be, at that point, we will be in a post-pandemic. And the following school hours are listed: traditional 8:30 to 3 p.m. for K-5 students, and 9 to 3:30 for our 612 students, our secondary students. So for the student experience, and this is unique to only phase 4 when we're doing blended instruction. So what this would look like for a middle school or high school student, even if we have some K-5 families on the line as well, this is what a schedule would potentially look like. Please remember, this is subject to change. We're still in draft mode, and so we're taking the feedback of all stakeholders and making the adjustments to meet the needs to the best of our abilities, to meet the needs of our stakeholders. So if a student is going to school on Monday, they will be in a class. It's important to note that the reason why we're splitting is because students have to socially distance. For example, if there's 24 students in a class, half of those students, 12 students, will go to school on Monday. The other half will go, the first set of 12 students will go to school Monday and Wednesday, and the other half of the 24 students will go Tuesday and Thursday. Because when you're socially distancing and our classrooms are a certain size, it does not become possible for all of our students to be in the same learning environment at the same time. So if Monday, student A is going to school, on Tuesday, the student will be home, virtual and remote, but still engaging in live instruction in real time. Wednesday, they will go to school in person, they will see their teacher, and on Thursday, it would be remote. Friday will be virtual conferencing where students will be at home on Friday, but this is an opportunity for parents to engage with teachers and students to engage with their teachers if they have any additional questions about the content, the academics, or assessment, and as well as ensuring that our special education services are provided. So academic snapshot, this is some of the high level things that we're thinking about, and I just wanna provide some clarity. So right now, K-5 students will have the same teacher Monday through Thursday. They will not have a virtual teacher and they will not have an in-person teacher. All of their teachers will be the same. For our 6-12 students, they will be content-based teachers, just like the traditional setting. Their math teacher will teach math, their science teacher will teach science, ELA and social studies will be separate. So each content area for the secondary space will be separate. For special education, we're committed through federal law to implement and execute IEPs and 504s. If there are adjustments to any IEPs, or 504 plans, we will work with our special education director and make sure that all stakeholders, as required through federal law, is at the table, school psychologists, parents, student, to make sure whatever plan we decide to move forward with, everybody is on board. The curriculum will remain the same. The curriculum will remain the same. For ELA, we are using EL, expeditionary learning, and then for math, we are using Eureka Math. So I wanna spend a little time on the virtual platform because I know that a lot of parents have some concerns to make sure, like, how am I gonna ensure that the needs of my student is being met while at home, while the other half of the students are in school. So Swivel is a robotic mound designed to track and record videos of a moving person. In this instance, the moving person is our teacher. It's a 360 rotating platform. It's used for remote instruction, lectures, and presentations. So students will be able to raise their hand. They'll be able to call for their teacher real time. We are going to make sure that we provide professional development and training to all stakeholders. That includes our school directors, our principals, our leadership teams, teachers, of course, students and their families, so that everybody is clear on how to use the virtual and digital platforms that we're gonna need in order to make education successful this coming school year. And here are some just anecdotes from Swivel, Swivel for hybrid classrooms. We had a school that said on any given day, we will only have half the students on campus and in classes in order to maintain social distancing. By using Swivel to live stream, the students at home can see and hear their teacher and the rest of the class. The students in the class will also be able to see and hear the students at home. This will allow for us to teach both sets of students at the same time without the balance of separate curriculums. We know that this is going to take time for us to perfect it. We know that we're going to have to extend grace to our teachers as they're learning and engaging in new learning to make sure that we provide a quality education for our students. What we do know that this is new. We don't have a best practice. We don't have a perfect measure of how to make this work, but we're committed to adjusting and providing ongoing development for all stakeholders who engage with the platform. And then the second, can we go back? Can we go back? And then the last anecdote is Swivel will allow for remote students to experience classroom instruction via Zoom in much of the same way for our on-campus students, including the ability to participate and collaborate. And that's what's most important. I know that our parents felt like in some instances that the lessons were recorded, so there was no opportunity to engage if their student had like questions or concerns. And so we felt like this was a platform that will meet the needs of our students and our teachers to the best of our ability. We've never used the platform and it's new, but we're committed to doing what we can to make the shifts to meet the needs, the educational needs of our students.
Thank you, Ms. Sharif. So before I get into technology, just real quick, very good questions. Just hold on tight. Your patience is important. Some of these questions are going to get answered before you leave. So just hold on tight. Hold on tight to your questions. Very good questions, though. So technology. We are going to make a shift to Schoology. So Schoology is very similar, but more robust than Google Classroom. The great thing about Schoology It allows for communication 24/7. Obviously, we won't be expecting teachers to respond back in the middle of the night, but it does allow for parents, which is the most important piece that we like about this. It allows the parents to engage, to actually go in, to see what's happening, to also make sure they're holding their child accountable for the work that's being provided. It also just allows for collaboration across the network, around the schools, around various content areas, and it allows for other administrators across the district to collaborate as needed. And also, it makes it easier for teachers to identify students' needs and design a more personalized learning experience. So those are three reasons why we decided to go with Schoology over Google Classroom. Now, as we mentioned, we did this back in March, we are providing one-to-one laptops for every single student. Again, one-to-one laptops for every single student. Obviously, there'll be a process in place. You'll get information about that. And obviously, you know, if you had any issues with getting a laptop in the past, we're gonna make sure we have a much tighter process so that every student who needs a laptop will get a laptop. In addition to that, it's one thing to have a laptop, it's another thing to have access to the internet. And so we're gonna have limited grants available for hotspots. Now, let me be very clear about this. And I've said this in the other two calls. DPSCD students were fortunate enough to have philanthropy, folks, business, folks around the city of Detroit to provide additional money to get them hotspots for every single student. Unfortunately for our students who are also Detroit students, Detroit residents, we didn't have that opportunity. And so what we're doing is we're spending our own operating budget to provide as many hotspots as we can. To give you a big picture of how much this costs, for 100 hotspots, so for 100 kids to receive internet access, it is $26,000 a month. Again, for 100 students to receive their own individual hotspot, it is $26,000 a month. And so I want us to think about how much money over 10 months would that cost if we had 400 or 500. And we have close to 5,000 students in this network. So we all can do the math. And so it's important that I want you guys to know that we're dedicated and spending as much money and making decisions to ensure that the people, the students, families who need hotspots, we're doing our best to make that happen. Now, for those parents who, want to, come together and talk to business owners and folks around the city of Detroit around like how you can help other students who also go to schools in Detroit, feel free to do so. Parents, you have power, you have a voice. And so feel free to use that to help support our students in getting those same resources. Trust me, we have looked at multiple options. We've looked at the cheapest option, and this is the cheapest option that we found that's going to be helpful for our students. And as I mentioned with Schoology, the attendance obviously will still be taken, and assignments and deadlines would align with the class pacing. So it's going to continue the similar work of Google Classroom. It's just going to be more robust and more helpful for parents, students, and teachers. Next slide. Oh, real quick, before I go to health and safety, training. We're going to provide support not only to our teachers, but also to our parents. And so stay on the lookout for information around like training to engage you in what it means to engage in Schoology and giving you some tools so that you'll be able to support your child. So that information will be coming. We want to make sure you're going to be all set to go once we start school at the end of August. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Laird, who's our Executive Director of Finance, to talk about health and safety.
Thanks, Curtis. I'm going to go through our health and safety protocols. I want to mention that all of these protocols are based on either CDC or State of Michigan guidance, and any future changes to these protocols would come from one of those two organizations. The protocols I'm about to go through are obviously only for blended learning when the students are in the classroom. You can move on to the next slide. So parents will receive a health and safety agreement in their back to school packets. It'll state that students that are symptomatic or have been diagnosed with COVID-19 or have been in contact with someone that has been diagnosed with COVID-19 will quarantine for 14 days and provide a negative COVID-19 test in order to return back to school. Daily screening. So staff, parents, and visitors will fill out an electronic health screening each day, as well as a temperature check. We are looking for a temperature above 100 degrees for CDC guidance. Students K through 5 will have their temperatures checked in their vehicle before being dropped off, and 6 through 12 will have their temperature taken as they're walking into school. We are currently looking at ways to increase the efficiency of this screening process, including thermal cameras. That's it. So PPE, so 3 reusable cloth masks will be provided to all students and staff. They are required to use these each day at all times. We will also provide face shields to frontline staff as well as for students and staff that are not able to wear masks, as long as a medical note is provided. There will be sanitizer stations located throughout the buildings and classrooms, as well as CDC approved cleaners. Building cleaning. So high traffic areas will be cleaned throughout the day. We have 2 dedicated staff members at each school that will be cleaning, including doorknobs and desks, light switches, handrails. Buildings and classrooms will be cleaned nightly by our contracted cleaning company, and deep cleanings will occur on the weekends by our contracted cleaning company. Both school staff and our cleaning company will be using CDC approved cleaners and procedures. Specific procedures will be communicated out after our plan has been finalized. Configuration of buildings and classrooms. So markings and signage are currently being installed throughout the buildings to ensure social distancing, as well as reminding of hand washing. Barriers are being installed at the front desk areas and open work areas, as well as in classrooms per teacher request. Office and classroom doors will remain closed at all times. Our HVAC systems have already been adjusted to increase air ventilation for CDC guidelines. And all classrooms will have desks adjusted to keep a 6-foot desk distance apart. Like DJ mentioned, the maximum amount of students in a classroom is 12. Classroom protocols. So arrival and dismissals will be staggered for less traffic and to provide a more efficient screening process. Individual supply cases or bags will be provided to the students so that they can keep their supplies in there to prevent sharing of supplies. And meals will be eaten in the classroom, both breakfast and lunch. I did want to mention that both breakfast and lunch will be available and provided to students that are virtual as well. Wayne Risa, who's our ISD and has been working closely with the CDC, will be releasing protocols any day now around building closures and communications when someone has tested positive for COVID. So those will be built into the plan and communicated to parents and staff, as well as when the plan is finalized.
I know there's been a lot of questions in the chat. I read every one as they come up, and so I'm going to tackle a few questions. I know we're going to open up the forum to start taking more questions in a moment. First, I want to talk about this slide. Families will have options. You will have an opportunity to opt in to in-person blended learning or opt out to go 100% virtual at the start. That option will be for a semester duration. That means that for the entire first semester, if you opt into in-person, then we're going to plan for you to be in person. If you opt out, we're going to plan for you to be out. This gives our teachers the best information to be able to plan appropriately for their students, as well as for their students, I'm sorry. We will work to identify siblings across the network. You should have already received a questionnaire from your children's school specifically, where they're asking you to fill out your opt-in, opt-out questionnaire. So check your spam, check your email. It should be in there. If it's not, be sure to send a quick email to your school. On that form, it's going to ask you to identify all of the siblings in your family. It has come up in other town halls. If you carpool, make sure you put your carpool family in there as well. And that ensures that we can get you on the same A-B rotating schedule for a blended model. The other areas that I'll address along with this next slide is uniforms. So there's really two phases to this process. The first phase is actually finalizing our reopening plan. We are required by the state to submit a board-approved plan by the first week of August. So that is our first phase. That is really the ensuring that we are in compliance with what the governor has asked us to do for those 3 plans we just walked you through. The next phase will be school-based communication. In that school-based communication, you're going to get information about uniforms. You're going to get information about arrival and dismissal procedures. We will take into account that,
but Tyler.
we will take into account that we have families that have students in multiple buildings. So when we're creating our staggered arrival and dismissal procedure, we'll make sure that you can actually drive that route and your students be on time. The school calendar here shows that our first day of school will be August 31st. We still will honor all the breaks that's on our official calendar, which is posted to our website. And our last day of school will be June 18th. So with that, I'm going to bring up Jan, our Executive Director of Marketing and Development, to moderate our Q&A.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the questions. And a few that have come up in our chat have been around after-school programs. What is the plan for delivering after-school programs this school year?
Yeah, so we're still in the process of finalizing what the after-school program is going to look like. We're collaborating with the Y and other organizations to make sure that the needs, whatever expectations or needs that we expect, that they can meet those needs. And so nothing has been finalized. As we're still finalizing the reopening plan, we'll make sure that we're collaborating with the appropriate organizations to provide as much flexibility and normal experience as possible, but considering that we're in a pandemic and there may be shifts.
Questions regarding students that have health issues such as asthma. Could a parent provide a face shield rather than a mask? And how will those students with health issues be supported in a in-class or hybrid model?
Yes, the parent can provide the face shield. We are willing to provide the face shield as well with a medical note.
Questions regarding lunches and meal service. Will students be able to bring their own lunches to school? And what is the protocols for students to wash their hands and the sanitary measures behind serving lunch in the classrooms?
Yes, they can bring their own lunch, and those protocols will be sent out as soon as our plan is finalized.
The question has been repeated in this session as well as others about the requirement for students to wear their masks for the majority of the day or for all of the day. Can we talk a little bit more about that, the requirements of children to wear their masks all day and to ensure the security of those students in terms of social distancing as well?
Jan, can you repeat that?
How will we enforce students who are required to wear their masks all day, as well as social distancing in certain classrooms?
Got it. Thank you. So the requirement, if you read the governor's reopening plan, it is required by executive order that students grades 6 through 12 must wear their masks all day. In the K-5 space, it is required for students to wear their mask as they're entering the school and exiting the school. However, when they're in their classrooms, it is optional. In our K-5 town hall meeting, we got a visceral response from a number of parents who felt like going without a mask in the K-5 space was not an ideal scenario. At the same time, we had parents who felt like wearing your mask all day, I saw it in the chat here too, was unhealthy. And so we're, again, we're paying attention to the science. We understand, and we're paying attention to the CDC. We understand that there's different schools of thought about different things. I can only stress that we're a school entity funded by public dollars, and there are pieces of this that are outside of our circle of control. As for enforcing mask wearing, just like any other expectation that we have of our scholars, the mask wearing will be the same thing. We're going to make up songs about mask wearing for the little people. We're going to really allow our high school students to be creative with how they might decorate their masks, because the older kids, it's more of a fashion, it'll become more of a fashion statement. But nonetheless, I can't stress enough, we are community. This is a UPrep community. And it is going to require a full court press with families at home, reiterating to your children before they go to school what's expected. As they walk in the door, we greet our students every day. We're going to remind them to be safe. And it'll just be an over communication and holding accountable to that expectation for wearing masks in the school. As far as social distancing, we've said before, the in-person model, we've established a 12 student threshold. There will be no more than 12 students in a physical space at any given time, which will allow us to socially distance. We will provide pictures of what the classroom setting will look like as we approach the beginning of school, so that you have a visual of what you can expect, because we want to keep visitors to a minimum inside the school building, so that we sort of create our own version of a bubble, if you will, once kids are in the school.
The question regarding student pickup and drop-off was asked. How will we handle that?
So student pickup and drop-off will be handled per campus. School directors and their leadership teams will be collaborating to figure out and flesh out the logistics, because every campus is different. The construction and configuration of each campus is different. So it's very important for the individuals who know the specifics about that process, detail that and share that information with teachers as well as parents.
Questions regarding standard hours testing in a virtual or hybrid setting was also presented.
Yeah, so right now, as far as local assessments, which is like diagnostic information, that will be implemented and facilitated through the teacher. But when we think about like SAT, MSTEP, those high stakes assessments, we're leaning and waiting on the state to give us a recommendation on what they're going to do. There is a chance that they may cancel testing for this school year, but we have not gotten definite information that is being done. And so we don't have the power or authority to make any decisions on that. And we will have to rely on the guidance of the governor in the state.
Another question was asked about the finalization of our plan and how will the parents receive it? When will it be finalized and how will they receive it?
So currently our draft plan is posted on our COVID information site. So you can go there right now to see the slides that we were going over today. Once the plan is finalized, it will be, the draft plan will be taken down and our finalized plan will be posted. You will see one for every district. They will be exactly the same, but we have to actually get one approved for the UPAD district. We have to get one approved for the UPA district and one approved for the science and math district, and we're required to post all three. So you can reference any one of those at any time at your leisure. You'll also be able to download it if you like. I also saw a question about this presentation. This is going to be, we are recording this presentation. We've recorded the other two town halls as well. That's going to be made available. The interesting thing about having 3 town halls, we get different sets. Some questions have been the same, but then there's been some nuanced questions that have been a little bit different. So those videos will be posted until we finalize our plan.
Question regarding restroom use, students sharing it, and if there'll be any type of limitations or protocols regarding the use of the restrooms.
Yeah, those protocols will be sent out in the future as well with the cleaning, the detailed cleaning procedures. We're waiting on a lot of the Wayne Risa guidance that we're supposed to get any day to help us with that.
A question regarding why we're starting in August, a week earlier than normal, was also presented.
I saw that question. Thank you. So this is a leap year. For those of you who were born in leap years, you know they only come every, I think, 7 years. And so Labor Day is falling very late. We are required by law to have 180 days of school. And if we started traditionally after Labor Day, we would be in school till the very, very end of June. And as you guys are familiar, it gets a little tough for all of us at that time, and we start to see a decline in our attendance as we turn the corner into June. So we thought it was best to just move the entire year over a week. And at the same time, because we've been out from one another since March, starting a little bit earlier, we also felt would give us a jump start on getting started with instruction for this school year. So that was an extra added benefit. But the leap year is really the main reason why we shifted for a week.
Clarification on whether or not 6 through 12 students will have 2 teachers for each class was one of the questions asked here.
Yep. So as of right now, students will have 1 teacher. And so what that would look like is if I'm a teacher in a classroom, I will project my students who are at home, and then I will also have my students that are in class in person with me. We know that this can present some challenge, so we're committed to developing and providing as much support to our teachers. We also know that if we need to adjust and it does not seem to work, we will figure out how to adjust. But at this moment, the best practices that we saw from schools that are using Swivel, there's 1 teacher in a classroom that's navigating both students, both sets of students, the students that's in person and the students that's online. Without a doubt, it's not simple. It's gonna require some adjustments, but that is our tentative plan for right now.
A question regarding classroom materials such as books, pencils, and other materials when in classroom or a blended model was presented in regards to safety.
Wait, what's the particular question?
The use of classroom materials such as books, pencils, and other things while in an in-classroom or hybrid model was presented, how would those be handled?
To my understanding, the students will be using their own materials. They won't be sharing materials. Everybody will have their own.
That's correct. As Sarah said in her presentation, we're going to have individual either bags or boxes to put students' materials in, so they are not sharing any material, none.
The question regarding students with special learning needs. How will students be supported during whether it's an in-classroom, hybrid, or virtual setting?
So it is federal law that we implement and execute all IEP and 504 plans. Now, what may happen, depending if we're virtual, every student has different needs. Every IEP is different. The hours, the resources, social work hours, all of that is different, and it's by a case-to-case situation. And so our special education department will be working with our families individually, because there may be an instance in where there needs to be an amendment or an adjustment to the IEP to meet the needs of the time. So if a student needs manipulatives, making sure that that student gets manipulatives at home, and if they're working, and if we're 100% virtual, making sure that our special education teacher, our learning specialist is doing what they need to do. But we do know that it's virtual, so it's going to look a little different, and there more than likely will be amendments, but whatever we agree to during that amended time is what is federal law that we will execute and implement and execute.
Real quick, so let me jump in here real quick. So I've seen a couple of questions here related to teachers and timing, if it's going to be the same as it was in the spring. A couple of things, and I said this before, this is new for all of us. This is a pandemic that none of us have ever experienced, right? So for us to sit here and pretend as if we have 100% of the answers, that we know this is going to be perfect. I have kids, but I'm trying to consider what I need to do as well. And so it's important for us as we think about this, that this is teamwork. And as we're trying to figure this out, we're coming up with ideas that's going to be important, that we all take the time to review them, give feedback, but understand that in order for any of this to work, we all got to work together. And it's important for us to also know that we've missed a few months of teaching and learning. And we're going to do our best to make sure that every child, every family has what they need to be able to have the best, whether it's remote, hybrid, or whatever version, and whatever's going to be safe. And our decision, obviously, is based on whatever the governor tells us to do, right? And we know, and we're going to feel very strong that our number one priority is to make sure that every single human is safe. That is first and foremost. We will not forget that. But we are also required to come up with 3 plans. So whatever decision we make, we are ready to go. And so I appreciate the questions, I appreciate the comments, but I also want to remind us that this is new for every single person in this entire world. We've never experienced this before. And so we're trying to figure this out as we go, but we can guarantee you this, we're going to do our best to make sure that your kid is safe. If we happen to come back, if not, we're going to make sure and do our best to make sure that they are engaged in learning, that you have what you need to make sure we can support that process. Because COVID will end at some point. It will end. And I want to make sure our kids have not lost and not have fallen behind because we haven't done our part. And I want to make sure that all of us are on the same page around that. So I just wanted to state that, and everything, the teachers are going to understand this, the parents are going to need to understand, and the students are going to understand this. This will be different than it was in March and April and May. It will absolutely be different. So I want to just keep that at the forefront and give each other grace as we try to figure this out.
Thank you very much for that, that inspiring, those inspiring words. You know, I'm gonna close us out here. There's a couple of things that I wanna circle back to that I don't know that I just want to bring some things home. Number one, we are going to distribute this plan widely. As I know that different people process in different ways. For some of us, this town hall was perfect. We could follow along with the presentation and it was great. For others on this town hall, you have to print it, highlight it, put a sticky note on it to make sure that you fully understand. So what we have done is on our COVID site, there is an opportunity for you to provide additional feedback. The window has not closed to hear your voice. So I invite you, if you need to process this again, you might have to watch the video back again. It can be hard if you got life going on around you and you're trying to pay attention to the phone, watch dinner, I get it. So you might want to listen to the recording again to make sure that you're super clear. As Dr. Lewis said, we are learning things day by day. A question came up about sports. The Michigan High School Athletic Association just released last week their information. So now we have to take what they're saying. And my understanding is that they want to hold fall sports as usual. Well, they may want to hold fall sports, but are parents going to be willing to allow their children to play in fall sports? So we are working diligently behind the scenes because, believe it or not, we hear all the information the same time you do. There's just no gap in that information. So as soon as we have those answers, we will over communicate that to our families. I also saw a chat question that talked about timeliness of communication. When we self-evaluate, communication always is the number one thing we want to get better at. While we cannot promise, because of the way information has been coming out and all of the politics around COVID-19, we can't promise that every single thing can come out well in advance. But what I can assure you is that on August 5th, you will be able to go to our COVID website. You will be able to go to our COVID website on August 5th and actually read our final plan. It will be approved on the 4th and it will be posted on the 5th. The other piece I heard talked about in the chat, and I'm not sure if we got to it, was laptop distribution. We are currently working to ensure that laptop distribution goes smoothly. Again, we're going to be asking you to check your email early and often so that you are on top of those forms. Again, check your spam. Make sure that everything is in working order with receiving your emails. And please let your school know. If your email isn't working, we need to fix it in PowerSchool so that you can receive all of the communications in a timely manner. There was also a question about PowerSchool and grading. All of that information will be communicated with your school enrollment packet, so be on the lookout for that. I will end with this. This is a human experience. My team doesn't even know this yet, but I got word on my way home. My daughter-in-law, who lives in California, my son and daughter-in-law are expecting. They are in the hospital right now, inducing her labor. And we can't go. We can't be a part of it. I'm like, my mind is all over the place. It's going to be our first grandchild. And this COVID-19 has drastically changed our reality. My prayer is that we will come out on the other side stronger and valuing one another and community much more because we've gone through it. We've been a family, a UPrep family, when we first found out what was really going on. And we're going to be a UPrep strong community coming out of it even more. I am so humbled and honored to serve this amazing parent community. And I look forward to continuing to move through this COVID-19 experience together with you, because I know that we will ensure by a coordinated effort that we will create the most amazing experience that we possibly can for our scholars in this upcoming school year. So thank you again for your attendance. Be sure to visit our COVID page, and I look forward to seeing you in Zoom rooms early on in the year and prayerfully on the other side of Christmas in the same room together. The poll is up. Before you exit, please make sure you vote. It's going to be important information for us to plan, and look for that questionnaire for opting in, opting out in your email. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. I think the meeting is like almost over.
We just ended.
Okay.
But we're going to post it on the website, so you'll be able to watch it back. Just look for it tomorrow.
And one more question. If I had someone in like a younger grade, could I watch that video as well as how their classroom setting will be?
Yes, all three town halls are going to be posted.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello. I've got a quick question. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. I really appreciate everything you and your group are doing, and the plans. They seem very, very well developed. Are the unanswered questions, will they be addressed later and made available on the website for us to view? Because they seem like there are a lot of unanswered questions.
And so we do actually save the chat as well. We're developing a frequently asked questions document that you'll be able to access as well, where we're addressing the questions that don't get answered specifically in the plan. And some will get answered in the plan, but they came up so often, we just felt it would be necessary to raise it to a frequently asked question.
So when we get that FAQ, if I don't spot my questions or answers to my question, I can drop an email to you or Mr. Kellum.
There is an email address on the COVID site. You can absolutely email Mr. Kellum if your child is on his campus. But if you want to make sure it's globally answered, you can also there's an email address on our COVID site that you can ask your question as well. We want to be as responsive as we possibly can. So yes, you'll be able to still get your question answered even if it's not in the FAQ.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have a quick question too. Sorry. I just messaged Curtis, I believe. My daughter is Deshauna Jackson. She's in the 9th grade. I've been trying to get in contact with the school for like a month.
What school?
And no one has. I'm sorry.
What school is she at?
She's at UPAD and she's in the 9th grade.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure I check on her grades and get in contact with someone. I didn't know if she needed summer school, but no one has emailed me back, called me back. She's been on Instagram, messaging some of the teachers and the other students trying to get contact information. And I've been calling the office and leaving messages up there, but nothing so far.
Okay. Can you type her name in the chat directly to me? Okay. So that I can write her name down and we'll make sure somebody gets back to you.
They said directly to you. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Right. So if you go to your chat and if you click on Danielle Jackson, so instead of it going to everybody, it'll just come to me. Look for Danielle Jackson and then click on my name.
I have you.
Okay. Now type your daughter's first and last name in there so I can get it.
Okay, thank you. I'm doing it right now.
Yep.
I sent it to you.
Okay, I got to put my glasses back on. Hold on, Let me write it down. Before we close out, let me write it down.
And I'm just going to add my email too because they text me all the time about the meal distribution and say that they send me emails, but I never get an email from the school. So I don't know if they have the wrong email because I don't spell my name wrong sometimes, but I've never gotten an email from anything from her school.
Okay. Did she attend our middle school too?
Yes, she did. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Still there, Ms. Jackson?
All right. I am, and you get the last question of the
Okay.
So
okay, yeah, I know you guys are real busy, but we appreciate all your help. Have your group done a walkthrough and not just a read through to make sure? Because a lot of times, I like what you presented today, but a lot of times a live step through the process, you can spot a lot of issues that might occur on the first day of school. So I was just wondering, I don't want like the first day of school to be like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, we didn't think of that. Or do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, I do. I'll say this as we get ready to get out of here. We walk through everything. We do what we call minute by minute procedures. So what that means is that for something as simple as arrival, we walk through step by step to calculate how long it's going to take to get from the car queuing area into the school, up to the stairs, into the seat. So we already had that discipline as an organization in our schools to think deeply about all of the procedures that we develop. And so we have been walking through, we've set, one of the first things that happened when we assembled our task force is our health and safety group set up a classroom. That's how we were able to arrive at the fact that we could only have 12 students in our classes and still socially distance. So we take that hands-on approach to every decision that we make. Now, with that said, you know, when I talk about the power of community, I mean that. There's gonna be things. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And so when we miss it, what I want and what I'm inviting our parents to do is give us grace, number one, and then let us know in as a loving way as possible. Hey, I noticed this. You need to think about this. Because imagine, you know, they say that you can go fast by yourself. You can go further together. So it's going to be a team effort.
Okay, all right. I really appreciate your helping in the presentation, and it made me, and I'm sure a lot of others, they feel a little more confident about returning to school and about having our kids return to school. So thank you.
All right, thank you. You guys have a great one.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.